Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I love the freaking glasses you got on.
You know they're real, right?
They are?
Yeah.
Real what?
Glasses.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, this is the Complete Athlete Podcast where we get you to your next level in baseball and in life. And we got Matty Roans here. How we doing, Matty?
Doing pretty good. Had a hard workout this morning.
Good stuff. You're still in training mode.
Yeah. I took August off because the body was hurting after the summer.
Okay.
Started ramping up September, hitting weights, movement patterns. Then started throwing again kind of second week of October. So.
Okay. How important was that month off for you?
It was big. I was pitching 3 days a week this summer, sometimes 4 days a week. So it's just really taxing on the nervous system.
Yeah.
Road trips also kind of burned me out a little bit.
Yeah, you guys were traveling by bus mostly?
Traveling by personal car.
Personal car.
Yeah, I put a lot of miles on the Mazda this summer.
Okay.
Lots of car naps, got really good at that. Kind of special of starting the night before the road trip and then getting 7 hours of sleep in the car.
Yeah, that's a lot, man.
Yeah, shout out to my road mates for driving those long drives while I slept.
Absolutely. And this podcast episode is really just kind of catching up where you've been at the last 6, 7, 8 months. Like, you obviously had your first summer of pro ball in the Pecos League. Which team were you on again?
I was on the Blackwell Flycatchers.
Okay. Where were you located?
So Blackwell, Oklahoma. It's about an hour and a half north of Oklahoma City. It's kind of right in the middle of like all the oil fields and like the big oil rush towards the last part of the 19th century.
Oh, wow.
Lots of farmland, lots of windmills.
Lots of windmills.
Lots of windmills. Kansas has a lot of windmills.
Okay. Yeah, we saw some of those on our way home from Iowa the other weekend too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to get an update from you on like how pro ball went. You obviously graduated from Augsburg back in May, and then you went on to play some pro ball. So what was that experience like for you? And like, was it what you expected? Like, were there any crazy things that happened, or what was the day-to-day like? You just tell us a little about it.
Yeah. I feel like it met my expectations. I was originally invited out to spring training by the Tucson Saguaros.
Yep.
But they were hosting their spring training in Blackwell, and their manager made it very clear that it's very much funded by the town you're in and ran by the people in the town, and that it really more compares to like JUCO or even high school at some elements of it.
Yeah.
Like we played on the town's high school field.
Okay.
We had to rebuild the mound so that it would be safe to pitch on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We had a couple guys that were actually like really good at groundskeeping. One of my teammates, Jack Scantz, ran the Tampa Bay Rays spring training facility, or I wouldn't say ran, but was like part of that grounds crew.
Okay.
So he kind of ran our grounds crew, which was the players.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I learned how to fix up a mound, water an infield, like all that stuff, line it up real nice.
So that's something we can definitely institute with all the CA club players, teaching them how to take care of the field this next year.
Yeah, I'll show them how to do it. I won't do it with them, though.
You've already done enough of that.
Yeah, watering down a field at like 1 p.m. just so that you don't have to soak it for an hour straight before the game.
Yeah, because all the dust.
Yeah. Well, kind of dust, but it's just like rock solid if you don't water it.
It makes the field playable. I always wondered that too, why we did that in high school and why like the target field crew does that before the game. You see them watering that down. Beforehand, they've done a lot of watering before that as well, just so that the field stays damp and so that the ground itself doesn't get hard like a rock.
Okay.
You get untrue bounces when the ground is like that. When you have a more kind of malleable playing surface, you can level it out and everything is smooth. Not a lot of times you see it, but like you see the guys dragging the big metal sheet. That's just leveling out everything. It's not so much to rake everything, but as so much to make sure everything's level and everything's in place.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that agronomy of the baseball field is very. It's a nuance. I I mean, even when I was in high school.
I mean, that's why they have full-time groundskeepers for fields.
Yeah.
And that's why the ones that are taken care of are, the places that you want to play.
Yeah, and I never understood the level of care it took until I got to Montana when I was umpiring.
Yeah.
Coach Mason, not my brother, the one that was coaching me, was very, very anal about that baseball field and would not let other people on it for those reasons.
Oh, yeah.
Because, there was one day he yelled at some dude who's hitting golf balls in the outfield.
Yeah, it's a no-no.
That's a safety hazard.
He lived a block away, so, somebody says, hey, somebody's hitting golf balls in your baseball field. He drove over and didn't even, park, just put his car up on the curb and just said, got out of his car and
get out of here.
Probably still had his robe on or something
Absolutely.
like that. Yeah, it was like, bro, get the hell off my field.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Hey, I would probably do the same thing. I mean, baseball fields are kind of sacred in that
Yeah,
route, so.
But Spring Park didn't have a permanent fence at that point either.
Oh, yeah. No, the field's a lot better now.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nurgard, that's one really good thing that he did. He took care of that field.
He made sure there's a permanent fence. I mean, there is a very nice football field on the other side of that fence too. Yeah. So, I mean, could we get some better turf?
Well, that's the whole thing. I think we're going to talk about turf mounds today because I have a big ass picking with turf mounds these days.
I mean, turf in general, that's something, I'm going to talk about with AG, former football player too. It extends to not just baseball.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're talking about it. They're wanting to get all grass fields
for football, but then eliminating turf mounds. I mean,
we dealt with it some of the guys at our Iowa tournament back in just October
last week.
Is that a week or two ago?
Yeah.
Literally, arms were hurting because they weren't able to plant properly and all that stuff because they were putting too much stress on their arm. Because if you can't get that kinetic energy that you're creating from the ground into your front side, then it just all comes out your whole shoulder and your elbow and everything.
So, I mean, that goes to you, Matty, as a pitcher. Do you feel like that little bit of movement when your foot lands into the dirt allows, a lot of that kinetic flow to kind of...
Oh, 100%. Connection to the ground is the most important part of pitching, no matter how hard you throw or from what arm slot you throw with. With some of the best throwers I've been with, there's actual divots where their feet are from landing so many times with so much force.
Oh yeah.
You'll notice it a lot in indoor turf facilities. If you do enough throws from one spot, you'll see where your foot's been, without even seeing your toe drag in the dirt.
Yeah.
I fly through baseball cleats because I put so much pressure through my feet.
Oh yeah.
If that helps with
that.
No,
and he's down here, so he's submarine.
I mean, even then, I kind of vibe with that. I went through more socks and the toes of cleats, and there were specific cleats that I bought that were more reinforced in the toes for that reason.
I don't even mean the toes, because the toes is all about just friction and drag with the ground. I'm talking about the footbed itself. After about a month or two in a new pair of training shoes, there will be prints from my toe in the footbed, and then after 8-9 months, those footbeds are just gone.
Yeah. Oh, you can. I mean, they talk about with running shoes. You only can have running shoes for 6 months, and they're done.
Well, it's because they'll end up forming to your feet. You get a groove with them where they are in their peak performance because they're so flexible, but they're also providing support.
Oh yeah.
And then it just falls off a cliff. After a certain point.
Man, are we podiatrists here?
No, but I mean, we've at least felt this enough pain in our feet to know. I mean,
I know.
I specifically bought a specific type of cleat when I was in high school because I remember how badly other cleats hurt my feet. And
Which cleat?
It was the Nike Shox.
Oh, okay.
I mean, A-Rod came out with those when they were the best. To me, they were the best shoe.
Yeah.
And then the one year I tried the Air Maxes, they were horrible.
Yeah,
I had my worst season. I wouldn't attribute it all to that, but I definitely could feel the difference.
I like the New Balances. I've pretty much gone to my day-to-day New Balance shoes, and I wish I would have had a New Balance cleat, but I never used that. And I'd shred through pitcher toes. And even my one outing this fall, pitching against the 15 to 18U kids, I dragged my foot so much, my bunion, I scraped up my foot just throwing 90, 95 pitches, and it was gone.
Yeah, I've been in New Balances since my sophomore year of high school. It's been 6, 7 full seasons in them.
You'll have to tell me about a good New Balance cleat to get then.
Either the 30-30 or the 40-40.
Okay.
I mean, they really just make the 2 models.
Yeah.
And their cleats are pretty cheap, actually.
Okay.
So I'm at the point where I'm going to buy 2 pairs of every shoe I
need.
need.
Yeah, because you need it, especially if you're playing pro ball again next summer. Let's get back to pro ball, right?
Yeah, that's the cool stuff.
Well, that's the cool, fun stuff that our viewers want to hear about. So, Matty, you finished at Augsburg. You pitched down in the Pecos League for the Blackwell team down there.
Yep.
And how are you utilized as a pitcher? Because,
so
some people know about you. Some people don't know, exactly,
Yeah, so I came in as the setup guy down there. Granted, the pitching staff was 9 to 11 guys at that point.
Yeah, that's not...
At one point, we went through a stretch of 4 or 5 actual pitchers on the roster.
Wow.
So our roster was the deepest opening weekend.
Guys getting injured or what? Or getting traded or dropping out?
So our closer, Connor White, got called up to the Frontier League, I think. Went up to Grand Rapids for about a month. Unfortunately, he got cut, came back down, joined us again. But so for the first 2 games, actually, or 3 games, he got called up after 2 appearances.
Yeah.
Dude sits 93, 94, 23-inch slider kind of deal.
Yeah.
Just struggles throwing strikes.
Yep.
We all know those issues. So once he figures out strikes, he's going to be a really good reliever going forward.
Awesome.
So I came into the first game after Cade Johnson, another guy that throws upper 8s, low 9s, traditional arm slot righty. We were out in Garden City, Kansas. Turf field, but I think it was a dirt mound.
I like that.
Yeah, it was actually turf infield, grass outfield, dirt mound.
Perfect.
Yeah, just the perfect combo.
The biggest hybrid you could ever find.
Well, yeah, that's what you want. That's the hybrid that you do want.
That is actually a decent hybrid.
True infield bounces. Outfield is grass, so when the guys who have to run aren't running on turf.
Yep.
Planting on turf. Yeah. And then the mound is great. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was in there as, the change in arm slot, change in velo. Picked up 2 innings out there, a couple strikeouts.
Sweet.
Gave up a couple hits that turned into double plays.
There you go, because you're down there and they're hitting ground balls into the ground.
The goal was throw 12 pitches, get out of the inning. Worked out pretty well for the first couple weeks. But a lot of the other pitchers on the staff wasn't throwing strikes.
Yeah.
Dudes that sit 85, 88 with good stuff were just unwilling to put their fastball in the zone. So I was on 2 days on, 1 day off, 1 day on, 1 day off, and then repeat. But by the time that it got to mid-season, we just need to try to stay competitive.
Yeah.
So we had one series down in Roswell where I came into the 5th inning of a game, pitched 2 innings. It was a close loss. It was probably 9-6, 9-5. Mm-hmm. I'd like to say I don't think I gave up runs in that outing. And then I had 1 day of rest, and then I was the starter. Went, I think, 5 innings. Probably gave up 6 runs or something. I haven't been a starter.
Yeah, when you told me that you started a game when you came back to coach fall ball, I was like, what?
I started 5 games this summer.
That's crazy.
Just why? That
they didn't have enough pitchers.
I get it, but it's just platoon.
Yeah, I gave up a 6 spot in the first inning of a game, including an oppo home run on a changeup to a fucking pitcher. Granted, this dude played for the Blue Jays at some point in his life.
Yeah.
But 3-2 count, changeup down and away to a righty, bops it out to right center field. A little bit of a jet stream. Plus, we're playing in Roswell, New Mexico. It was 104 degrees that day. Altitude's pretty high. Air's very thin. ground
Excuses. Just
ground
kidding.
is concrete.
No, he's right. The elevation there is 3,573.
Oh, that's why we got
73. I mean,
Taylor
that's,
here.
And we're playing on like a
Yeah, that's pretty
310
good.
fence.
So,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
to put it in perspective, most ballparks sit around 700 at like even 300 at most. Like there's some, but like the highest elevation stadium is the Coors Field at 5,279.
Yeah.
So if they're at 3,500, that's pretty elevated.
We played in Santa Fe too, and right field was unmarked. That is how short it was.
Oh, wow.
They left it unmarked.
And Santa Fe is 6,998.
Oh, wow. That's more than Coors Field.
Yeah.
Wow.
So anything would just float out of there. That's like what was the Mexico series? They were up at about 7,000 elevation there too.
Which Mexico series?
In the Mexico City series.
Oh, yeah.
There was like 18 home runs hit in that game.
I wonder why every pop fly was a home run.
It's ridiculous. Like you just swing for the fence and it works out when you're in an elevation like that.
So when you're pitching in that scenario, I mean, do you feel that elevation change a little bit too? Does it feel like you're short of breath or anything like that, or like what does that change?
I feel like the air's just thin.
I honestly think I adapted pretty well to the heat and everything. I was pretty religious about hydration, and honestly, the sun's your biggest threat at that point.
Yeah.
Because when you travel up and you spend a night, your body readjusts pretty quick. Plus, spending 7+ hours on the road wasn't going to feel well. I actually didn't pitch in Santa Fe because the series before we were in Alpine, Texas, home of Sul Ross State University. They have a very nice field out there.
Okay.
The mound is not very tall.
Yeah.
But they've got like a 1920s, 1930s era ball field, like concrete everything, like skinny dugouts that are very steep. Honestly, great environment. They run a really good show over there. They've been part of the Pecos League since 2006.
How long has the Pecos League been around?
Just about.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they're one of the first teams in the Pecos League.
Okay.
But they've got a great fan base. They run a really good show. Like if you want to see like a good Pecos League game, go to Alpine, Texas. Really entertaining out there.
Cool.
But so out there, I also had one of those relief 1 or 2 innings, have a day off, and then start the last game of the series. Also gave up a 4 spot in like the first, second, or third inning.
We're just learning you're not a starter or a high elevation pitcher.
I think I can be a starter because I'm trying to
high elevation then.
I'm trying to make that transition. What I'm going with is I can't start my 3rd game of the week.
True.
I mean, can anybody?
I don't think. Yeah, you're not alone in that one. But I mean, I just think, like respectfully, any pitcher no pitcher likes to go to Coors Field. Like that's already a given. So you're not going to see a Cy Young Award winner come out of there.
Oh, no. Are the most home runs hit at Coors Field every year?
They literally had to change their fence because of that.
Like, they move it back more?
No, they just build it higher so that their bullpen, I mean,
yeah.
I'm not sure anybody in the bullpen is really getting pegged by a golf or a baseball or whatever, but still, I mean, it's just like...
I feel like higher's not really the solution.
So that it just made more triples happen. That's all it did. They didn't fix very much. But I mean, even if you extend it out, it's like the ball's still gonna fly there.
And that's a lot more triples.
In Alpine, Texas, 4,475, by the way. So another high elevation.
Wow, that's crazy.
I'm just saying, like, you can't blame like a lot. I mean, there's circumstances that come into every baseball game, and I think any pitcher who's pitching at high elevation should take, the ball traveling a little bit more with a grain of salt, because like if you make a good pitch and like you said, a kid just bops it out because it's freaking 5,000 elevation, it's not your fault.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll admit most of the home runs I gave up this summer I knew was a home run as I released the pitch. Like I've got one on the mental highlight reel from a home game, just hung a 3-2 slider belt high to a 4-hitter.
Yeah, you can remember that.
Like the guy got his foot down, stopped his swing, and then resumed it to crank that ball.
I think in slow motion you probably felt that more. I bet for him it was probably just a slight pause, just very slight.
But he bat flipped and everything. I wasn't even mad about it. Like, I would too if I hit a ball that damn hard.
See, and that's where I feel like there needs to be some more humbleness with pitchers in the majors. Like a guy bat flips, you're like, he just got you on
Yeah,
one. Like, you know how hard it is to hit a home
Yeah,
run?
like the whole.
It's hard, man.
Yeah. What did
it's
you
not
think?
easy.
What did you guys think about the whole Bobby Abreu and Adolis Garcia
Yeah, that
situation?
that was exactly what I was like. That's a situation where, like, I mean, I even talked about it in a YouTube video for college baseball. There are umpires who are taught to intervene in those situations, and there are some that are taught not to. And because it's just a, like, do you warn these guys after they do something like this to prevent them retaliating and causing more things to happen? It's like, are we going to let them police themselves? If a guy hits a home run off a hard pitch to hit, let him fucking celebrate. Like, I just don't. As an umpire, I'm gonna get involved to the point where I'm gonna be like, guys, like, you gave up a home run, make a better pitch. Let's all move on. It's baseball.
Yeah, 100%. What did you think about the repercussions from it, though?
I don't think they. I think they should. He should have been punished for the game in the playoffs. One, they shouldn't.
Yeah, push the 2-game suspension.
They pushed it to next season. That makes zero sense.
That makes 0 sense.
He's not going to care about those 2 games.
I don't think there should have been a punishment.
I don't think
my own take on it.
I think Dusty Baker shouldn't have been thrown out of the game. Also, but
no,
because it was entirely a pitcher's action and then a reaction that caused the whole hubbub. It wasn't like, oh, home run, oh, guy gets pegged. Like, it was clear as day. There was, like, it just wasn't like a very, like, clear, we're pegging him because he did that type situation. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you throw him out right then and there. You don't go back and forth between the two parties.
Yeah, they let the fight happen and then threw guys out. So if there should have been more warnings given maybe than after the first home run, or so that's an umpire situation, to be honest. Like, umpires can get involved in that situation and calm that down before it happens.
I mean, I feel like on the player side of it is just, like, understand the situation you're in. Like, yes, you're both, like, you're in a very, very competitive environment and it's a very emotional game, but understand that there's a line of, like, you don't need to fight over it. Like, you give up a home run in a playoff game. It's valid to be pissed off about it. Like, I'm pissed off about it in just a regular season game. And
Abreu wasn't the one who gave up the home run, right?
Well, no, it was.
He came in later.
But like, the whole team getting annoyed by it.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't have to, like, step up for your teammate and be like, you shouldn't bat flip on him. It's like, no, he shouldn't have given up a crank job.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same, like, when you have a guy that's an agitator on your football team, everyone loves that guy when he's on your team.
Oh, 100%.
But when he's not on your team, you hate that guy. So, of course, you hate it when another guy or another team or somebody does something great. You want that to be you, but it doesn't happen all the time. So, especially in the playoffs, you know, emotions get rather ramped up. So when the pitcher who's trying to compete gets hit by one of the best players in the game right now, I mean, after last night especially, probably one of the best Game 7 performances I've ever seen. Yeah, like, he deserves to pimp that a little bit. I mean, he
it was a big situation.
It's a playoff game.
I always think about it like this. If I'm going to celebrate, I better know that we're going to win that damn game. Because, like, if we're not going to win, then, like, there's still some game left. Yeah. Like, I'm not celebrating. But that's just me. Some guys like to celebrate those moments, especially when they hit a home run. They got a ritual. They got their, whatever. I mean,
a lot of the celebration is just, like, trying to get a psychological advantage in the game.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're going to, like, taunt a little bit or, like, show some swagger, like, you gotta accept it back.
His whole taunt when he came into home plate, it reminded me of Josh Donaldson's stuff that he did when he was with us, and he'd like literally he just, like, stamped on home plate, like, took his time, and I think that was the part that brought the.
I mean, it's so funny because it comes full circle. When he was with us, he did that stuff, but then when he was with the Athletics, he got mad at other players for doing it. So it's just very funny how that works. Like, you know, the game is such an emotional game, and I think that's where that comes from.
Absolutely. So, back to Matty here. So, you pitched, how many innings did you log this summer?
39, 40. Somewhere between 35 and 40.
That's the most you've pitched in, like, a few years, right?
I pitched 20 in my entire college career.
Yeah.
20 innings total, and then you did 30 plus this week.
In my college career, I pitched, like, 18 or 19 games. This summer, I pitched in 32.
So were they all, like, single inning in college, basically.
Yeah.
Single inning or even one, like maybe one guy even.
There were a few outings where I would walk 3 or 4 and not even record an out. So I probably had like 22, 23 appearances.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily remember any like single outings from college.
I'm just thinking if they, like you coming down from here, if there was a certain hitting.
Yeah, they got a guy.
Pitcher-hitter matchup. But I don't know if that's how.
I mean, I was only submarine for like a full year at this summer point. Like,
yeah, because you restructured your whole pitching
I had
motion.
a little shoulder injury junior year college, went to sidearm to finish out that season. And then over the summer between junior senior year, dropped all the way down, just going for what's comfortable for my body. Like sidearm, I probably could have like done pretty decent from there, but just didn't feel quite natural.
Yeah.
Just my center of gravity's leaned over for some reason.
Interesting.
I mean, if that's like you say, what's comfortable for your body.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I can make most like submarine underhanded throws pretty easily, but I've got to actually think about how to throw overhand.
Well, yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, it just doesn't come as natural to me. Like over the past month, I've been playing more overhand catch than submarine catch, and it's kind of coming along.
Yeah.
I feel like I could touch 90 this off season overhand, but that's really just so I can touch 90 submarine.
Yeah.
Because no matter your arm slot, like 90, 95, 98 is always the goal.
You're gonna create that arm strength. I feel like with any arm angle, but I mean, you create some more muscle.
Yeah.
From going overhand, and maybe that some more shoulder strength and more whip. Even.
I would say it's not necessarily about building up. Like I think the overhand is more advantageous to throw velocity than actually a position to build strength through your arm.
Okay.
It's easier to use gravity. It's easier to loft the ball from an overhand position. Like I don't throw the ball more than 70 feet to throw submarine.
Yeah.
But I think that's also within myself to just program my body to pitch.
That's true.
Yeah.
There is something to be said though about the submarine and more that underhand motion is more. It's healthier for your arm. Not saying it's the best way to throw a ball fast, but if you're trying to save your arm, I mean, softball pitchers can throw every single day, and it's because they're not having that same strain on their elbow.
Oh yeah, it's with the. It moves with how your shoulder's supposed to move.
It's more of a pendulum.
Baseball in general is not supposed to.
But I mean, if you can emulate that in any way and also create some strength and whip, I mean, I feel like that's going to be advantageous for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a lot. Like arm slot for baseball is a lot about the tilt of your shoulder than the height of your elbow next to your body.
That makes sense.
Like I have a lot of still photos of me pitching where the only difference between me throwing submarine and me throwing overhand is my left shoulder's a lot higher than my right shoulder to throw submarine.
Yeah.
Versus overhand, my right shoulder's higher than my left shoulder.
Makes sense.
But in both instances, my elbow's at my shoulder height, and I'm getting that stress on my UCL, and I'm getting the stress on my lat. Like towards the end of this summer season, like I had one outing in Alpine that I was starting, where I was still sitting 77, 78 at like 90-something, 100-something pitches. We didn't do pitch counts because we need to get through the game.
Just get through the game.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But
unlike what we do here at CA.
No,
sure.
We take care of our athletes. I don't think any game is that important where if your elbow's starting to flare up, you should keep pitching. Like in my last inning out there, I was ripping off sliders and like my elbow did not feel good.
That's not good.
Yeah.
And now we're in off-season mode.
We're in off-season mode. We're feeling good.
That's good. You took your month off in August.
I was gonna say you took a month off, and I feel like that gives you a lot of time to rehab that.
Rebuilding back up. What are you doing this? So like, what are your goals now as a pro pitcher, and then obviously we'll get into everything you're doing here at CA now since you've been back.
Yeah, so I want to play overseas.
Absolutely. Where?
Not really picky. I want to travel the world. If I go to a different country every summer, that's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I just want to play for like another 10, 15, 20 years until it turns to the point of like I need surgery on my entire body.
The baseball mentality.
like a warrior going out on his shield.
And like the schedule out there is a lot easier to do that with. I know in Germany they play just on weekends, and it's like 2 or 3 games that weekend.
Oh, nice.
So I'll hopefully start one game, go like 6 innings, and then just do whatever I want the rest of the week.
There you go.
Like they ask you to run some like training camps for like the youth programs they run.
Yeah.
They have like optional practices to run, but like knowing me, I'm probably gonna like travel on Monday, maybe Tuesday, and then like be in whatever city I need to be in and like keep up my routine.
Absolutely.
I feel like that'd be a fun journey. Damn.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, spend May through August somewhere foreign, taking life out there, come back.
Love it.
I could just see you taking a video of you like playing catch in some like field in Germany, and it's just green grass for fucking miles.
2 summers ago, I went on like a little tournament trip out to Vienna and Prague, and I actually went and played catch in like a palace garden.
Damn.
On like a prep day.
That's what I mean. It's like I could just see it just being kind of like a funny TikTok, like where you're just like, I'm in Germany right now playing catch, and there's like
I can play anywhere.
There's like
baseballs
sheep
everywhere
in the background.
Yeah, like there were people like having a picnic in this park, and we're just like doing J bands like connected to a park bench, and like
that's
doing our
awesome.
plyos against
J bands everywhere. I honestly want to know how many J bands are around the whole entire world. That would be.
I'm sure we can get that statistic.
We'll get the statistic. We'll find it for you guys. I know you've been wondering.
Higher or lower, J bands in the world, or
I'm sure you could actually
vending machines in Japan.
You could connect how many J bands have been produced, like probably like the length of them, like all around the world, probably multiple times.
Just wrap the world in J bands. Just to wrap the whole world.
And that's why, kids, you got to be doing your J bands every time before you throw. I'm just saying.
I thought you were going to say that's why you need to be at CA.
No.
We got the J bands.
We do have a lot of J bands, actually.
We have so many J bands.
I know. We need to go through inventory with that because,
give them to him so he can go to Germany and hand them out and pass them around.
Hand them out, yeah.
Spread baseball through Jaeger bands.
Yeah, no, you don't need to pass
Jaeger
Christianity
bands.
through other countries. No religion passing. J bands.
J bands all day.
I'm on a baseball mission trip.
No, a J band.
I love
mission trip.
That's awesome, man. And what's your training program like for until next year, depending on where you play and everything?
Yeah. So I'm working out with Yoakum Strength Training. He graduated from St. Thomas, I think, in like 2019, 2020. Not totally sure.
Okay.
Great dude.
Cool.
Was a track athlete, football athlete. So I go do morning workouts there. Starts up at 6. We do like an hour of like recess games pretty much. Like flag football, ultimate frisbee, handball. We played floor hockey today.
Oh, really?
I'm so bad at it.
Oh, I could see you being bad at it.
Sure.
I appreciate that.
You know what? Now that you mention it, the best shape I feel like I ever was like when I was in high school playing those gym games all the time.
Those gym games made me feel like an unreal athlete. Currently, these gym games don't make me feel like a good athlete.
Yeah.
Now I know why Coach Benson wanted to beat us in badminton in gym class.
Oh yeah, man. He was in his youth right there.
Dude, if you never played against Coach Benson, then you literally like it was an oddity to watch him just stand there and make you move everywhere.
That's funny. Yeah.
He wouldn't move. He would just
little cat and mouse game.
He's watching you the whole time, and you're like, "What? This guy's psychotic," and you're running everywhere.
That's funny.
No, he understood if you keep them running, they're just going to hit it towards the middle of the court.
Yeah. Yep. I had enough stamina to get the game to like, I don't even know what the winning score is supposed to be. Like
probably 21.
Or something like that, right? Like I got to like 10, and then all of a sudden he started to move, and then I had stood zero chance.
Yeah, he turned it up.
All of a sudden he's like, oh.
Like, he's 11 points away. I got to step it up.
He's like, he's still not within spitting distance of me, but I'll turn it on a little bit.
Yeah.
Make sure I win. So yeah, we do recess games, and then Monday and Wednesday will be like an upper body kind of focus, but like not in any way that I've ever been familiar with. Like it's a lot of like impulse training for like building up like joint and like force acceptance through your arm. So we do a lot of like we're using like literal like tie down straps that you'd use in the bed of your truck.
Like flatbed trucks. Yeah.
Yes, like those straps, like we connect them to like the squat rack, put a handle on them, and do like rotational snaps to like build up shoulder and elbow stuff. Like we're taking.
You're basically getting your joints ready to accept high exertions of force.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And like teaching your arm to relax to accept that force, because a lot of the issue young athletes have with trying to throw hard is they grip the ball and like white knuckle it, tense up their bicep. And that's ultimately how you end up hurting your shoulder, how you end up hurting your elbow.
Yeah.
So if you can learn to relax in that, you're going to be safe and not get hurt through these snapping exercises. And it's all about using your shoulder cuff to move the strap and accepting force through your joints. We do a lot of hops on leg days. Today's leg day absolutely sucked, so thank you for that. Like, it's at the point where, like, if I'm suffering in the middle of the workout, I realize it's getting me better.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You can almost you almost don't feel punished. You're just like, all right, this is a part of.
Yeah, and I'm working out with like rugby players that go to St. Thomas.
They're psychotic.
They're freaks in the best way of that. Like, like yes, they're weird dudes, but like, what college guy isn't really weird at this point?
For sure.
The weirdest dudes I hung out with were the rugby guys. At Winona State. Yeah.
But they're really, really athletic, really strong, really, really nice. So they challenge me for 2 straight hours when I'm there.
Yeah.
Whether it's the recess games or just lifting. Like today we had a 100-pound sandbag and we were doing gator rolls. And
oh wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So you match up with somebody of about equal strength, and for me, the guy of equal strength is like 5% stronger than me, which is honestly perfect. Like, the challenge is what I need. But like, we were wrestling over this sandbag for like a minute straight, and it felt like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
We do a lot of like isometric holds to build up like muscle endurance. Like we did a Nordic hold off of a GHR machine for 2 minutes. Not fun. The GHR machine's that weird one that you like put your feet in and you will do like your back bends and really popular for like core, hamstring, glute exercises.
Yeah.
We do a lot of like rotational core work to build up spine stability off of that too.
Huge.
Do you remember the Nordic hold?
Yeah.
That stuff freaking sucks.
It's really good for you. I mean, if I'd try to do a Nordic hold right now, my hamstrings would immediately just clamp up.
Same. Mine would snap and I'd fall face first on the ground.
It felt that way this morning. It burns.
And especially when you're elevated too, like you're the fear of going too far too. It's like this is it's definitely a good workout though, especially
it sounds like you're really crushing those workouts and building back up. And I know a lot of that stuff. I know Zach Dykes talks about it is training when you're in the off season, training movements that obviously you are training baseball specific movements, but you're also training for other sports because the movements in other sports helps with your baseball, because you can't be doing all baseball specific stuff all the time. You have to build yourself up to that, and that stuff comes closer to season, and then you're just maintaining in season and all that.
And a lot of the stuff we're working on, like, none of it really feels that baseball specific until I realize, like, we're doing a shoulder exercise purely because I'm there.
Yeah. He was telling me they were doing like 100 reps of the strap stuff with the internal rotator, and like all the rugby players were like dead by what rep?
Probably like 20 to 40.
Yeah, you look like a god to them because they're like, how is he doing? It's because it's a specific movement that you've already ironed out. That they're not used to.
Yeah.
And then there's like plate swings for our shoulders where we'll take a 5-pound plate and it's just a minute or 2 minutes straight of like being at the bottom and then swinging up to the top like you're reaching overhead. And like for them, it's just like, okay, I'm like burning up my shoulder and it's like endurance stuff. and I'm there like, okay, this is like scap retraction,
Yeah,
shoulder
yeah.
stability, like building up my like force acceptance through my shoulder so I don't get hurt.
Yeah, I feel like the understanding is deeper when it comes to those like shoulder movements.
Oh,
Obviously,
yeah.
you're gonna have a little bit more appreciation for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we also have like neck stability stuff programmed in there where like you're just shoving each other's head around and trying to
But
not let your
you'd
head
be
move.
surprised how that's gonna help your game.
Well, I was
yeah.
talking to him. They did it in the quarterback documentary with Patrick Mahomes,
Yeah.
spinal stability and all that stuff. I think he has some of the best spinal, like
Just
Yeah.
mobility.
Mobility.
Something
Yeah.
I think
to take
everybody
hits.
should look into is the F1 guys.
Oh my god.
Those racing, those neck
Yeah.
cranks that they have.
Oh yeah.
Those guys have the strongest necks of anybody. Like, and you see them, they're thin
Crazy,
guys,
yeah.
technically. But when you get them in that car, like they have the ability to withstand more G-force than any of us.
They could probably take a hook from Mike Tyson in his prime and be okay.
Crazy.
It's because they're how much like their neck isn't look big either.
No,
It's the static
it's just
muscles.
so stable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talk about those static muscles out there. It's like that's basically what you're doing. You're just creating those static muscles.
yeah.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Some of my favorite elements though are like the handstand push-ups, like the pike push-ups.
Ooh.
There's just a lot of stuff programmed that gets you upside down and uncomfortable.
I like it.
Yeah.
But like
Blood rushing to your head and shit.
that ability to like get rid of the fear of like falling and hurting your neck or like hurting your shoulder in those positions, like just the mental process of that alone will be really beneficial.
Absolutely.
To like it's the 6th inning of a start, I'm getting tired, but like
Yeah, your stamina's up there and you
knowing
can
that
handle
like
it.
I'm not gonna get hurt, like the faith of I can keep going without getting hurt is really like one of the biggest processes we're going through.
Sounds like you got a really good training program ready to get you ready for throwing and everything. I know you've started lightly throwing. Now let's transition to some CA stuff. So since you've been back, you've been coaching, learning a lot about coaching different age groups. What would you say this fall was some major thing that you learned through coaching the 17U team and then helping out with other teams as well in August and September?
Main thing I learned is that you've got to talk a lot. Like you've got to be very vocal no matter the age group. Like I'm a pretty quiet person. Like in the pro ball level, like everybody's kind of doing their own thing to be a team. And like there is a good team culture there. I had a great team culture in Blackwell. But you do what you need to get done to go win the game, and a lot of the game is played quietly.
Yeah.
Like you'll talk to each other, have fun, like goof off in the field, but like the manager's just watching the game.
Yep.
Like he's got his game plan, but like he's not, calling out defensive assignments, and like when the ball goes up in the air, he's not yelling talk to each other and like the stuff that you have to yell out in the youth level. So with my 17 U's, I was really quiet. I let those guys kind of find their identity as a team, find their identity as a player. And I looked as my role as more of like a guidance within the dugout and like within mound visits and like more quiet conversations with my players. Growing up, I always found that like the coach yelling at the team like when they've made a couple errors, like
Well, yeah, 100%. Like that.
like
that part's-
and I don't mean like even in the sense of like ripping into them from the dugout, but just like reminding them to like button it up or like figure it out. Like that just feels unnecessary to me. Is like he makes an error, he knows that he messed up. So I like to save those conversations for when they come off the field. They've had time to like push it aside a little bit.
Yeah.
But I found there were times this fall where like I needed to take a mound visit and like kind of rip into them without yelling at them.
Yeah.
And like have them all close and just like be like, you guys are like throwing this game away. Like the team that we're facing has scored these runs through walks and errors. Like they're not even hitting us right now. So that was my experience with the 17s, bouncing around with the younger age groups. Like you really got to tell them every little thing. I found that pretty challenging for sure. Just with my style and all that. but really learning that like the kids look to you to be a role model and like show them how to go about it, like found that pretty like rewarding and like really grateful to like have those relationships with the kids.
Absolutely, yeah. They look to you for guidance, and some you learn who the types of players are that can take certain type of communication with you. Like if you can actually be harder on them, and then others, they need more of a helping hand of like when they do something well, you're letting them know that you saw that, and then that perpetuates them into doing something else well, like making a play in the field or having a good at bat. So like those little things that from coaching that I've learned the last few years, like obviously you coached what, last fall and then this fall?
Yep.
Yeah.
And with the same age group, just a year later, they're 17s, not 16s.
Yep. So yeah, and it differs between different age groups, but I think as a coach, it's more so like how much of a positive influence you can be, whether it's in more of a quiet setting with older kids or more of a vocal type with younger kids. It's just got to be in a positive sense, and then when the kids know that they screwed up, like they already know it. So how do you get the point across without demeaning them so it doesn't happen again? How do we move past this, and who's going to pick up the next guy and all that? Like, because they need direction on what's going to happen next, not what just happened.
I feel like my communication process with them is pretty solid, but just like the pattern could be a little bit better, like in terms of like the vocality of it. Like when an error happened or a kid like strikes out looking at a fastball, I feel like I was pretty consistent with asking before like having the conversation, like trying to get an understanding of like
what was your approach? Like what were you looking for there?
I feel like you were able to discover a little bit deeper kind of the why, and I bet you that kind of helped that you were able to stay with that same group of kids too, because like I don't think a lot of coaches get that. Unless you're a high school coach, you kind of get the same guys. But being able to develop with those guys probably felt pretty good.
Oh yeah, I mean it was a little bit awkward like the first 2 weeks where I hadn't been around them since February. It was like I disappeared off for my last college season, and then they thought I was going to come coach the summer team before I got my offer to go play this summer. So there was a large gap of time where I wasn't really in contact with them. But after a few weeks, I feel like
you just got back where you left off. Yeah,
like they remembered like, oh, this is how I run a team and my expectations for a team.
Yeah,
and I really focused on like it's about your effort and your ability to move on from bad events. Like I think my team was the only team that was allowed to throw helmets in the dugout. Like I wanted, like it wasn't a great result. Not many of the kids were able to effectively use that as a reset. Little bit of a learning experience for me.
I kind of get that though. Like,
granted, I'm the player that reset this summer by throwing his glove out of the stadium. Like I gave up a 6 spot in the first inning, chucked my glove out of the stadium, cursed obscenities, walked around calmly, came back with it, and then had 2 more shutout innings.
I mean, it's all about how you go forward.
Yeah. So I wanted to give those kids an opportunity to figure out what works for them. And there were a handful of kids that I was talking to about their resets. And one of them said, I don't think the helmet thing's working for me. I'm going to try screaming into my helmet. I had one player have like a bad infield inning. He like walked off somewhere, like screamed. Nobody heard him. Came back, got a hit.
Boom. I like that approach.
Yeah, especially like with fall where like the games matter. We want to win the tournaments, but like it's so much more of a development season in my eyes.
Developing how their plate approaches are, how they're in the field, what they're doing on the mound, like their mentality. I think that's a big take on what I just heard you say is like, how do you reset?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I like that too. That's a big piece.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. One thing we were going to talk about, which we'll probably do a full separate one on this, but we're talking about, and we'll just do it another time. But I think the take that I get from you, Matty, is you are in the trenches with your own pro ball stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of the viewers and the kids that are listening is like, what can you take from Matty and what he's done and is continuing to do, and how can you mirror that, and how can you take little bits and pieces from his workouts he's doing, what he's going to be implementing. We'll talk about in another podcast about the pitching development and what we're going to be utilizing with the pitch AI and the track and the video feedback, and what one thing can you take from that and implement into your process. I think that's the big takeaway from Matty's talk today. Obviously, we heard a lot of the stories that he talked about from pro ball, and those are awesome, and he's going to continue to have them because that's his goal and that's what he wants to do. But thanks for coming on, Matty. Really appreciate it.
Oh, an absolute pleasure.
I appreciate the wealth of knowledge.
Yes, and we learned a lot about fields.
Oh, yeah.
Heck yeah.
Before I forget, I'd like to shout out the Cavits for hosting me this summer. Absolute great host family.
Absolutely.
Great
Thanks,
time
Cavits.
down there.
Yeah, thank you, Cavits.
Have a good one, everybody.